Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 13th. The time is 5:30. We have a quorum present, so we are here for the regular meeting of Dallas County, Coppell, Texas, City Council. There is a quorum present, and I will call the meeting to order, and we will be moving into executive session. We adjourned executive session at 7:20. We went far longer than we had anticipated, so we will be delaying the discussion regarding the business plan for the Coppell Arts Center to another time. So we will be opening work session to discuss any agenda item comments, and then we will be back here to start the meeting shortly. It's 7:30. He's given the invocation. Okay, the time is 7:31, and we are here to start the regular session of the City Council of Coppell. There is a quorum present, and I call the meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the invocation, and Council Member Wes Mays will assist us with that. And then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you are Lord. Please keep us safe. You protect us from the wicked. You honor those who fear you. You honor those who keep a promise even when it hurts. You honor those who help the needy and do not expect anything in return. You honor those who do not take advantage of those that are less fortunate. Teach us to look to you for guidance and answers. Teach us to ask when we do not know or do not understand. You give us the light to show us the path. Teach us to follow that path. Let us trust in your unfailing love and rejoice in your salvation. Let those of us standing before you use your eternal love for the good of this community. Let us not forget all the things that come from you. We are just stewards for a very short while. Help us all be better stewards of those things that come to us from you. Through your love of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is citizens' appearance. We have one person that is signed up for citizens' appearance, and this is for an item that is not on the public hearing, which we do have a public hearing on the Coppell Middle School East project. So Mark Muncy, is that the topic that you want to talk about? Okay, so I'm going to move you to that item. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. No one else has signed up for citizens' appearance, so we will go to consent agenda items. We have items A through F, and these are items that are normally enacted in one motion. They have either been approved through previous council action or through budget. So we have items A through F. We are going to pull items C and D, and we are going to consider those separately. Any other items? Questions? No? Councilmember Franklin.
Hunt, move to approve consent agenda items 7A, B, E, and F.
Thank you. And second by Councilmember Roden. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Roden, Yingling, Franklin Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
And Mr. Garza, are you going to help us with item C? Consider approval to enter into a project-specific agreement with Dallas County for the maintenance and improvement to South Beltline Road and Royal Lane in the total amount of $1,209,582.78 and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you. Yes, this item is a maintenance item that we partner with Dallas County. They have done several projects for us, most recently, and in the past as well. It's the Road and Bridge Group out of one of the districts there in Dallas County, and what they perform is they'll do maintenance of asphalt roads. They'll do drainage, bar ditches, drainage ditches, and what they do is they do it at the cost that it is for them to perform the work. It's essentially a pass-through cost for them to perform the work. They use their own forces. They don't hire a contractor. It's their in-house staff, so it's essentially an arm of our staff to use to utilize Dallas County. So the process that we go through with them is we identify areas in town that we need maintenance on, asphalt maintenance for the most part, to buy us some time. And they come out, they take a look, and they give us an estimate of what it's going to cost us. And so we come to council for approval. If it gets approved, it goes to their commissioner's court for approval, and then we process the funds up front, and then any remaining funds that don't get utilized, they can either keep them in escrow and use them for a future project, or they return the balance to us. And so that's how we've worked along with our partner of Dallas County. And in this case, they came back with us for a price for both Beltline, South Beltline and Royal, of about $9.45 a square yard. We've gotten quotes from other contractors to do the similar type perform work for anywhere from $35 to $50 a square yard. And so we feel the county is the right partner to move forward with this project of performing the overlay of Beltline. And really, it's essentially so that we can have the traffic on Freeport during construction be able to utilize Royal and Beltline and prolong the life of that for the next few years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Roden.
Thank you, Mayor. First, a comment and then some questions for you, Mr. Garza. I guess the comment is, traditionally in the city of Coppell, we have not built asphalt roads, correct?
Correct.
We've built concrete roads, and I think there's a perception that a concrete road is a better road. I think as we have looked at our capital needs for the next few years, the reality is Coppell was built to a great extent all at the same time, so we've got major arteries, Royal, Beltline, and Freeport, basically from Bethel to LBJ, that are all failing at the same time. And these are $15 to $20 million projects. So as opposed to trying to put that burden on the taxpayers of making all those repairs or replacements at once, we feel like this asphalt overlay is a good solution for 3 to 5 years, so that 30 years from now, when the next council is looking at this, they're not having all 3 of them fail at the same time, as well as the perspective of let's not have all 3 of these roads under construction at the same time. So I just thought that was important for everybody to understand. A couple of quick questions. When we did the repairs on South Beltline with asphalt, we fixed the failing concrete underneath. I understand we're not doing that here. Can you help us understand that?
So when we met with the county, we asked them for their suggestions on what we need to do in order to prolong the life of Beltline and Royal for the next 5 years. And we asked that question, do we need to remove the concrete where we have failed sections? And they recommended that we don't have to. In other cities where they work, Carrollton, Addison, Dallas, they haven't had to do that, where they've gone in. I think Josie Lane is one in particular where they were able to go in and overlay, fill in the low spots with asphalt. So what that means is if you have a dip in the road, they level it up with asphalt, a different type of mix asphalt, then they come in with the overlay of the drivable surface. And so what that does is it seals in any cracks or any bad spots of the concrete, and so that water can't filtrate into the concrete and then cause the pumping when vehicles drive over it. It's sealed in with the overlay and then, or with the level up, and then with the asphalt. And so what they did on Josie Lane is they did that exact same thing, and that one lasted, they said, about 7 years before they came in and rebuilt that street with concrete. And so they recommended we don't have to do that. It certainly is an option. It's an added cost, but they feel that the 5 years it'll hold up over 5 years. And then the other thing, what they do is, if you've driven on Airline recently, they overlaid Airline last summer, and when they overlaid it, you notice there were some cracks in the concrete, and those cracks start seeping up through the asphalt. What they do is they let it settle for about a year, and then they come back and seal those so that it doesn't continue anymore, and then it prevents any. And they'll continue regular maintenance on it over the next 5 years if need be.
So this is a 5-year mix, not the 3-year mix.
Correct.
Okay. And then the last question is schedule. It would appear normally we try to do these things in the summer when there's not a lot of traffic, but we also have the option of doing it before we get Freeport underway. What are we planning?
So the good thing with asphalt is you can lay it and drive on it the same day. And so typically in the summertime when we're replacing with concrete, we have a cure time of anywhere from 4 to 7 days. And so that's why we wait for the summertime to do the concrete, whereas the asphalt, they can do a lane and a half in about a day, and then that same night pull the barricades off, and we can drive on it, so they can continue that and get done through it quicker. And so we anticipate that we can move forward as soon as possible so that we can get it overlaid before the bulk of construction on Freeport happens, and then that vehicular traffic on Freeport can shift over to Beltline and Royal.
Great. Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. So we already did part of South Beltline. How much is this actually going to cover?
The estimate they gave us will cover the remainder portion of South Beltline all the way up to 635 to Southwestern.
And does that include all of Beltline or Royal as well?
So the entire, yes, from 635 to Sandy Lake is what it. Now we could probably pull off of some of that but there's a big portion between Bethel and 635 on Royal that probably doesn't have to get done. We just included the entire amount just in case we decided to go through there. There's a portion right in front. I meant to get back to that. There's a portion right in front of the post office there on Royal that they did recommend we remove the concrete because it's failed. It's so poorly that we do need to remove that section. So there is a small section that we'll remove in-house before they come in and overlay. I meant to mention that. But the entire section from Bethel to 635 does not necessarily need it all, so we'll evaluate that.
Did they talk to you about their preference on the weather when to lay the asphalt?
It's usually when the weather is warmer. So the plants are closed. Asphalt plants are closed usually when temperatures in the 40s. And so coming in March, hopefully we'll hit the 50s and 60s because that's when the plants will open and they'll provide the asphalt, and so they can lay it at that temperature.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Councilmember Franklin.
Mayor, we are going to vote on these separately, right? Or are we putting them together?
You know, we can go ahead and put them together if you'd like. Let's do that. Item D, consider approval of a resolution expressing official intent to reimburse expenses associated with street improvements, including related drainage, signation, landscaping, sidewalks, lighting, signage, streetscapes, improvements, land acquisition prior to the issuance of bonds, and authorizing the mayor to sign. Well, hi.
Hi,
We got a switch. Miss Miller, welcome.
thank you. Mayor and Council, this agenda item is just to allow you some flexibility on the asphalt overlay portion, that you can either pay cash up front and then go ahead and reimburse yourself should you decide to when you issue the bonds. And then there's also potential that we need to do a land purchase that's also included in this reimbursement resolution, that we can go ahead and have the funding in place and then reimburse ourselves once we decide how we actually would like to purchase or to actually pay for the items. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Questions? No. Councilmember
Not
Franklin.
necessarily a question, just for the audience. This is a fairly routine type of financing.
Yes,
internal
it is.
financing. Thanks.
Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. Move to approve consent agenda items C and D.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Yingling. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Road, and Yingling, Franklin Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item 8, I'll open the public hearing and consider approval of case number PD 294C, Alpine Wash, White Glove Express Edition, Lot 1R1, Block A, a zoning change request from S1074RR-C to PD 294-C to amend this detailed site plan to allow for the renovation and expansion of the existing car wash facility to include self-service vacuums on 1.020 acres of property located at 250 South Denton Tap at the request of Mark Lockwood, a Plus Design Group. And nice to see you here today. You're going to help us through this one?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor, Council. The first public hearing this evening is in regards to the car wash located at 250 South Denton Tap Road. The existing car wash was originally constructed in 1993 and operated as White Glove Express. More recently, it's operating as Coppell Car Wash. It currently operates as a full-service car wash. What that means is you drive in, you drop off your car, they'll vacuum it, clean it, run it through the car wash, and then drop it off for you to pick up. The existing vacuum canopy outlined in green adjacent to the car wash consists of a couple of vacuum stanchions where the employees vacuum the cars. The prospective owners would like to convert the facility, in their words, to a more state-of-the-art car wash. It would be an express car wash, so what that means is the owner of the vehicle or person driving the car would drive in, go through the car wash, and then drive their car to the vacuum stalls and vacuum out their own car. With this type of setup, you can have a lot more cars being serviced at one time. The proposed hours of operation would range from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, the car wash, what they're planning to do, the applicants, is replace the existing facility's equipment with more modern equipment, and the site would be reworked. The type of site modifications that we're looking at: narrowing of the existing driveway to comply with the current ordinance requirements, remove the current vacuum area, install 15 new vacuum stalls, 6 up front and 9 along the eastern property line. The existing screening along the eastern side would remain, along with the existing landscaping on site. A big change would be to remove some of the existing concrete and replace it with landscaping, bringing the site up from 13% up to 30% landscaping. With the addition of the vacuum bays to the north, there's an existing screening wall. The existing screening wall would be extended to cover the new vacuum bays and parking area. One other feature that they're proposing is to stain and stamp the concrete along the new car wash entrance approach. There was a question posed at Planning and Zoning Commission as to circulation around the site. So I've got, bear with me. There's a little red car. And this will demonstrate someone going to get their through the entrance, going through the car wash. Backwards. A little stunt driving happening, yes. Vacuuming and then exiting the facility. Now the purple car just shows a different route. If the vacuums up front are occupied, you can go down to the southern end and exit through the mutual access easement between the two buildings and out of the site. So vacuuming, not everyone vacuums their car every time they go and get a car wash, so I had fun with that one, sorry. In terms of the building facade itself, with the front of the car wash here, it will be extended to allow a little bit longer tunnel. That new facade will look like this. They'll be adding stone with some CMU, and then you see the new overhead door. They'll be accenting it with a new roof over here and some metal awnings over the windows and over the facade there. They are proposing a wall sign as well as a monument sign out front. They are working on receiving their trademark for their logo, and we will have a stipulation saying that any proposed signage will have to comply with zoning ordinance requirements. This is just another look at the other various elevations. Just going to take note to the canopy elevations. So the canopies are proposed for the cashier area. So basically when you pull in, you'll be stopping, paying for your car wash, and then proceeding through the car wash. These same canopies are going to be used for the vacuum areas. So as you can see, it's a cantilevered metal awning, and then you've got a stone post. We did send out notices, 19 within 200 feet, another 184 between 200 and 800 feet. We received one undecided. They had questions about the vacuum and the noise of the vacuum not being any louder than what is currently there. The vacuum motor will be inside the building as it currently is, so they are willing or committed to do that. We did receive one notice in favor, and that's with the adjacent property owner of the Valvoline, who has spoken to Mr. Brown on several occasions and believes that the concept will be a monumental improvement both aesthetically and from a customer perspective. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this PD at their January 18th, 2018 meeting, subject to the following: that there may be additional comments during site plan review. A replat will be required to relocate the fire lane on the property. All proposed signage shall comply with ordinance requirements. The vacuum operation shall be fully enclosed and vacuum stanchions shall be inoperable when the car wash is closed. The existing landscaping along the eastern property line shall be maintained and enhanced if necessary, and the hours of operation shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's the end of my presentation. The applicant is here and does have a presentation available if you would like, and they are available for questions.
And is that Mr. Lockwood?
He has a representative here this evening, and Mr. Brown, the prospective owner, is also here.
would you have anything to add? Do you want any additional presentation?
We don't. I mean, we have a presentation prepared if you need to see more than what Mary has shown you. We don't have to. I know you have a long night, but if you'd like to see that, it's about 20 slides or so, and we can present it. We don't have any cool cars, though, going around.
No,
We don't.
no. Well, if you don't have the neat cars,
No,
then
she's already showed me up, so, okay.
how about you will be available for questions?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
This is a public hearing, and there are 2 people that have signed up to speak. Those who have registered to speak at the public hearing are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. So we have Trent Clark. That was you? Okay. Candy Brown? Randy Brown? So, okay. Okay, good. And they're both 4, just FYI. Okay, so council, any questions? Councilmember Roden.
Thank you. Question for the applicant. My only concern at all with this site plan, I appreciate what y'all are doing to dress up the building and to add landscaping, and I think that's a definite plus. The 9 vacuum bays that are on the far east of the site adjacent to the Braywood subdivision, I realize the equipment is inside. Help me get an understanding of the noise there that's right across the alley from those homes.
About all you would hear under the canopies that are next to that wall would be the vacuuming sound that you hear from a typical vacuum. You don't hear the noise, you just hear the sound. But typically when they're not being used, they go into a receiver that stops it. So the motors aren't running back in the building. But when someone pulls it out, you'll hear it come out and they'll be vacuuming their car. But it's typically a noise within 20 or 30 feet you don't even notice. We've done noise studies nationwide for vacuums because that's always an issue. Noise is always an issue, and that is one noise that never comes up as an issue with neighbors or adjacent business owners. It's always the equipment and the turbines that we're locating in the building, so it will be as far away from anybody as can be, and plus the building does deaden that sound.
And that perimeter screening wall stays, and those are covered vacuum bays?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Member Mays.
Mary, at the very beginning of the presentation, you may have answered it, and I wasn't catching the answer, but the driveway is being narrowed?
Correct. So currently, there's a separation in between, and the driveway is a lot wider than is currently required by ordinance. So in order to lessen confusion about people driving in and out, we're going to narrow that driveway.
But they still comply with the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That was all I was getting at.
Councilmember Hinojosa Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my question was similar to Councilmember Roden with regard to just the vacuum noise, but I also noticed that hours of operation, you have them from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. What are they currently? Because is there a change to that, or is that where you're operating now?
I do not know what they currently are operating. We don't.
I didn't know if you were going earlier, and that's where I wanted to understand. No, you don't know, or no, you're not going earlier? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know with the shaking of the head. Okay, thank you. Because I guess that's probably, if I have a concern, was understanding kind of the noise level. Because I guess the other thing I had a question on with regard to vacuums was it said you were going to, the first slide I think mentioned you're installing 15 vacuums. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Where are you
yes.
currently at right now, number-wise, on vacuums?
Well, since it's a full service now, when the car pulls up, they just have some vacuum hoses that drop and they clean the cars as they move through the line. So there's probably 4 or 5 just drops for the people because they're manually taking care of them going through. When you go to a self-serve vacuum, then you tend to provide more so people
Right.
can pull in at their leisure either before they wash their car or afterwards. So we
Right.
are adding more, but it will be similar to the amount of volume that's already going through there now.
Okay. And then the other thing, I think, okay, thank you. As far as access to the vacuums after hours, is there some sort of switch that goes off that controls all of them so that they're not being utilized after 7 o'clock?
Yeah, vacuums just get shut off. It's one of those things you don't want to run those motors all the time. So
Right.
they're only being operated, the motors and turbines themselves are only being operated when you're in business. And if you don't have a bank of vacuums that are operating, you turn that down because it just burns electricity to keep them running. So and then at the end of the day, you can pull the hoses off. A lot of operators will pull the hoses. You just unsnap them. They're gone. They go back in the equipment room. So at night, they're totally inoperable canopies.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. I just looked up online, and it says that the hours are 8 a.m., except on Sunday it's 9 a.m., and then 6 o'clock. So you are going earlier and later from what it says here. So,
Oh, thank you for looking that up. And I guess my question would be, why? Why do you feel the need to go in earlier? I guess my concern is noise.
Yeah,
If they're all
right.
going at the same time, right? Everybody likes their clean cars, so or their cars clean. So 7 a.m. and then 7 p.m. Just out of curiosity.
All I can speak for is most car washes try to operate those hours when you're on an express service because you have people like real estate agents, people in their car that have 8 a.m. meetings, and they like to get their car cleaned before they head to their meeting. And then when people come home after work, a lot of times people like to stop and clean their car and have time after work to be able to clean their car on the way home. So it just gives you a little more time to be more convenient to the customer.
Do you have a question? Councilmember Franklin?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a few comments and then make a motion. This is a very tough site, and it always has been since day one. I know I've lived here in Coppell for almost 19 years, and back when I moved here, it was the place to get your car washed. It really was. But given the history of this site and what's being proposed, I think this is highest and best use. I think the ingress-egress situation in the shared driveway is probably not ideal, but looks to be optimal given feedback from the adjacent owner and the successful repurposing. I think that that's taken place here. I think it's really interesting that properties and businesses along Denton Tap that were built roughly 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, are being repurposed and upgraded. You know, whether it's the McDonald's or the Wendy's or the Sonic, you name it, they've all been repurposed. And I'm really happy to see that this one's being repurposed as well. So this redevelopment really represents what is a continuing progression of market forces that reflect the strength of our community, our property values in this location in particular. It's a tough site to redevelop, but I like the execution here. So with that, I'd like to make a motion. Approve. Close the public hearing and approve. With conditions and approve. You think I'd know this? I've been on council for 12 years. Okay.
Just wondering what the motion
Thank you, Mayor.
was going to be.
Move to close the public hearing and approve item 8 with conditions.
Second by Councilmember Roden. All in favor? Oh, wait. Any other questions? I'm supposed to ask that. I know. Okay. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Roden, Yingling, Franklin Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you very much. We're looking forward to it. I know. Okay. Now we are at 9. This, too, is a public hearing. And Mary Perrone Boswell is going to be here as well. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask you to read this into the record.
Not a problem. Item 9 is public hearing. Consider approval of PD 217R2-C, Doggies Wonderland, a zone change request from commercial to PD, revised commercial, R2, revision 2, to amend and expand the detailed site plan for the existing 0.692 acre Doggies Wonderland site, and to allow the construction of an approximate 3,000 square foot building for a kennel, rescue, self-service pet wash, and bakery use on 0.439 acres and to establish a concept plan for future development on the remaining 0.346 acres for a total of 1.479 acres of land located on the east side of Denton Tap Road between Van Bever Drive and East Bethel Road at the request of TKL Real Estate Investments, represented by Josh Barton of G&A Consultants, LLC. This property is located, as I mentioned, on Denton Tap Road on the east side between Van Bever and Bethel School Road. There's an existing Doggy Wonderland on Lot 4, an existing legal non-conforming car wash on Lot 6. And with this proposal, the small building that you see on Lot 6 to the right will be removed to accommodate some parking for the new proposed building. The PD would allow for the construction of approximately 3,000 square foot building on Lot 5. The building will have 3 tenant spaces, each with their own separate entrances. So on the left-hand side, you have the proposed lot configuration, and on the right, you have a floor layout of the new proposed building. The pinkish area will represent a bakery that will cater to both dogs and people. The green area represents a 4-stall pet wash facility. And the blue area represents a proposed dog rescue shelter for different rescue groups. The pet wash and dog rescue areas will be operated by Doggy Wonderland personnel, and hours will be the same as Doggy Wonderland. Roughly 7 to 7, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday and Sunday is what Doggy Wonderland currently operates. And a grease trap will be required for the bakery operations, and that's based on plumbing code. As shown on the last slide, the property will be replatted into 3 lots. It's the new lot lines and site configuration eliminated 1 parking spot for Doggy Wonderland, but a new parking agreement with Lot 5 will provide adequate parking for the site as a whole. Also, due to the irregular lot configuration, some of the landscaping has been adjusted to accommodate overall landscaping on site, and this will exceed what is required by about 13%. A portion of the brick wall on Lot 4R will be replaced with a new brick wall and extended onto Lot 5, and another section between Lots 4 and 5 will receive an ornamental fence. As I mentioned previously, one of the buildings on Lot 6 will be removed. There are no other proposed enhancements really for this lot, except for they are proposing to add a new 15-foot landscape strip along Van Bever to create more curb appeal. There are some existing variances on Lot 4R from its previous PD that will remain. When we look at the exterior building facade proposed, it will be mostly brick and stone with cement plaster accents and a standing seam metal roof. And they're using several architectural elements to balance the brick and stone on the building. We did send out notices, 16 within 200 feet and 125 between 200 and 800 feet. We did not receive any written responses. I believe I received 1 phone call, and they were just curious as to what was proposed. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of PD 217R2-C Doggy's Wonderland at their January 18th meeting, subject to the following: that a grease trap be required for the bakery, the hours of the operation for the pet wash not exceed those for Doggy Wonderland, a shared parking agreement be in place for lots 4R and 5, and that a shared dumpster agreement be in place for lots 4R, 5, and 6. That's the end of the presentation. J&A is here if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Does the applicant have anything they want to add? No? Okay. This is a public hearing. No one has signed up to speak, so I will turn it over to the council for questions and or comments. Councilmember Roden.
Question for the applicant. To me, it seems kind of cruel and unusual punishment to bring these dogs into a bakery to be washed. Help me understand just that combination of business. I'm just curious.
Now, I might want to bring Chris up here. He's the operator, but I mean, it's really a new trend that's coming online with wanting to share an experience with your pet while you're out and about washing them. And you want to add something to that, Chris? Or am I doing all right?
Explain it.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason to build this building is to pretty much create a service center for different needs. And it's 3 different entities, has 3 different entrances. So it just depends on what you're going to use. It's not like you have to wash your dog before you eat. No, it's not like that. So it's just, you pick whatever you want to use. Yeah, so.
Our Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Okay, this may be a question. So are you, like in Petco where there's dog food, people take their dogs and they're not going to be taking them in the bakery, right, where there's food?
Not inside.
Okay.
Not inside. The inside, well, you can tell it's a smaller size area, so basically it's just a lobby for human to order.
Okay.
And there's a kitchen right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Okay,
it. The dog's
just-
not going to be allowed in the building.
Okay, just double check. Yeah.
Councilmember
One other
Roden.
question. You've got these outside dog yards for the rescue dogs. I guess I'm just worried about noise there. You have residents across Van Bieber from there. Are the dogs out there in the evening, at night, or are they just there to exercise during the day?
It's just during the day. No more than 7 and 7, just like Doggies Wonderland.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to close the public hearing and approve item number 9 with conditions.
By Councilmember Long. All in favor? Any other questions? Favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Roden, Yingling, Franklin Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
For those of you who are wondering, I'm hesitating for the any other questions. It was brought to my attention that I've been forgetting to ask. It's true because I keep forgetting. Okay, so now we have Marcy Diamond joining us for public hearing number 10. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. It is to consider approval of case number PD 136R4-LI, Rumble On, a zoning change request from a Plan Development District 136 Revision 3 Light Industrial to a Plan Development District 136 Revision 4 Light Industrial to allow an internet-based motorcycle sales and ancillary uses within a 58,500 square foot lease space and to permit additional vehicle parking in the truck court at 4301 Patriot Drive at the request of DCT Trade Center, being represented by Bobby Prost, Prost Design Group, Inc. Ms. Diamond.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. The applicant has requested that consideration of this PD be postponed into the March 27th City Council meeting. Therefore, staff is recommending that this case be held under advisement until that meeting with the public hearing left open.
Thank you very much. Motion to postpone, Councilmember Roden.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to postpone item 10 to the March 27th City Council meeting, leaving the public hearing open.
Second by Councilmember Hinojosa Flores. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Roden, Yingling, Franklin Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
Okay, item 11, I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Diamond to read this one into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing to consider approval of PD 292 SF12. This is for Coppell Middle School East. It's a zoning change request from single family 12 to PD 292 single family 12 to allow the construction of a concession stand, restroom facility, bleachers, press box, parking, and the addition of lighting for the existing track and football field on 24.7 acres of property located at 400 Mockingbird Lane at the request of Coppell Independent School District, being represented by Louis Macias, Jr., Director of Facilities for CISD. Do a real quick history here. Originally, what the CISD requested back in December was to build a concession stand restroom facility, bleachers and a press box, bleachers containing like 800 seats and a press box, parking along Falcon Lane, and lighting. This request was presented to the P&Z in December. At that meeting, we had input from the neighbors, and the P&Z did table this request till their January meeting to allow additional time for CIC to address some of the technical conditions and to meet with the neighbors. On January 11th, the Coppell Independent School District did hold a town hall meeting. There was about, I'm thinking, 200 people in attendance. They made a presentation. As part of CISD's presentation that evening, they had offered the following conditions, which I'll read into the record, to revise their application. They had offered to lower the profile of the bleachers in the press box, basically removing the film deck, and reducing the number of seats in the bleachers from 800 to 300. They offered no Sunday activities for CISD or city use, no lights or sound system after 9 p.m., and that the sound system be less than 50 decibels at the property lines. They moved the parking expansion from the Falcon Lane site to a site between Mockingbird Elementary and the middle school. They suggested that the restroom and concession stands be locked when not in use, and to allow for the community use of the tract when not in use by CSD or city, but that could be changed if it is damaged. And at that point, they said all these restrictions would be detailed in an interlocal agreement. At the January 18th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, CISD did state that there would be no interlocal agreement with the City of Coppell. And so the Plan Commission did recommend approval of this request, incorporating the conditions that were offered by CISD that were incorporated into the plans. And then their staff also had some just technical drafting conditions. And then P&Z did add the following conditions: that the use of these facilities shall be limited to CISD only, that the lights on one side of the field shall be permitted in the morning, and that the use of sound system shall not be permitted prior to 8 a.m., that the use of sound system after 9 p.m. in the evening shall only be used for games and not for practice, and requested a submission of a landscape plan indicating additional screening basically between them adjacent to the alley. I'll take a minute to kind of explain what all those words look like on the ground. Again, one of the first things they are going to build is a 1,620 square foot concession restroom facility. This is going to be located on the south of the existing tract, basically closer to Falcon Lane. Again, an additional condition was that this area would be locked when not in use. As I mentioned, that originally they had an 800-seat bleachers. When they revised their plan, that it did reduce to 300 seats, and it's now 17 feet tall. They did have, and I have a picture of what's out at North, basically a press box with a film deck up on top. They have revised their plans to remove the film deck and just have the press box, given the adjacency of the residential and how they could be seen by the homes. I also mentioned that originally they had a parking lot along Falcon Lane. It was going to have about 40, I think it was 46 spaces. They removed that from the request, and then basically they're going to rework the existing parking lot that's between East and Mockingbird, and they're still going to end up with a net of 42 spaces, so they'll still achieve their increased parking but not have it along Falcon Lane. The next thing is that they are going to be adding lighting to the field. As I mentioned, CISD did offer that the lights would be turned off at 9 p.m. and that they should only be used for games and not for practice. That the lights would only be on one side of the field in the morning, and that was determined to be the east side. It's closer to the houses, but it will project away from those. And that, of course, they would know, irrespective, they would have to be in compliance with the citywide glare and lighting standards. The sound system, CISD did offer that it'd be no more than 50 decibels at the school property lines, and that the use of the sound system shall not be permitted prior to 8 o'clock in the morning, and the sound system shall not be used after 9 p.m. in the evening and should only be used for games and not during the practice. Another condition that was suggested by Planning and Zoning Commission is that they provide some additional landscaping along the edges to provide a better visual buffer. When this plan was resubmitted by the school district, they did show live oak trees basically planted 50 foot on center. Well, obviously, if you go out in the property today, there are significant long trees along both those property lines. However, at this time of year, they do not provide much of a visual or sound buffer because all the leaves, have fallen off of those. So, what we're recommending is a detailed landscape plan, be submitted that basically recognizes the trees that are already out there, but consideration be given to adding some maybe evergreen trees or some shrubbery to really obscure the view of the field from the existing houses. Okay, so in summary, what's before you this evening is the concession stand, restroom facility, bleachers and press box, parking, and lighting. On this case, we did send 95 notices within 200 feet and another 363 courtesy notices within 800 feet. Of those within 200 feet, we received 4 in favor, 41 opposed, and 1 undecided. Within the courtesy notice area, we received 5 in favor and 11 opposed. We also we received 16 in favor and 2 opposed beyond the 800 feet. If you want to pass this notebook around, this has all the responses we received by where they're located and in favor and opposed, so they're all in that notebook. But because we have received more than 20% opposition of 20% within 200 feet, 6 out of 7 votes are required to approve this zoning request. Again, on January 18th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval subject to various conditions. As I mentioned, the exhibits have been revised to incorporate all the conditions as offered by CISD and recommended by P&Z, save and except we have 4 outstanding conditions. That would be the additional comments will be generated along detailed engineering review of the grading, drainage, and utility plans, fairly standard. That there will be additional comments on the revised parking layout as relocated between Mockingbird and CMS Eats. We'd like to include additional information about the speaker system, location type, etc., prior to issuance of building permit, which is also a very standard condition. Then finally, a detailed plan will be required prior to the installation of the overstory trees along the north and east property lines, as currently indicated in the site plan. The detailed landscape plan shall include location of existing trees and incorporate a combination of evergreen trees and shrubbery to obscure the view of the field from the adjacent homes. For reference, I do have slides that specifically talk about which CISD conditions were offered and which specifically were recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission. But I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The applicant is in the audience.
Does the applicant have anything they would like to add? Welcome.
How are y'all? No, Marcy's done a great job explaining what our plans are. We have made concessions on behalf of the school district. I can assure you that we will abide by those conditions. And the 9 o'clock time is real generous. Most middle school games are done by 8:15, 8:30. We just wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time there just in case. These lights are fully automated, so we will have the ability. I can turn these lights off from my living room. And just for the record, I live right across the street from this field as well. So as far as the district being able to monitor the use of the field and what is going on out there, that will be very doable from where my residence is on Red Cedar Way. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have for the school district.
Thank you. We have a system, so
Okay.
we're going to listen to those that have signed up for a public hearing first. There are several people that have signed up for the public hearing. Again, the public hearing is limited. Each individual that is signed up is limited to 5 minutes. There is a maximum of 1 hour for the people that are for and the people that are against. So I am going to have all of the people against first and all the people for second, so that we're can get that hour. And if you hear somebody who's already given your speech and you want to just say, I agree with what that person said, to save it so that the next person can speak, we're okay with that. So the first person that has signed up to speak is David Warner. And we do actually have a timer, and it will buzz. And please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Could you put the slide up with the map with the red? Thank you. My name is David Warner. I live at 841 Falcon Lane, 23-year resident of Coppell. And I live across the street from Middle School East. As you can tell, on the original request by the district, there was significant opposition from neighbors that are adjacent to the property. And it was primarily due to a lot of uncertainty with regards to what was going to happen and a lot of potential usage well beyond what the Middle School East and Mockingbird might use the facility for. So we kind of got organized a little bit, if you will, and we stated our opposition in our case and worked with the school district. The really two big points that we had that were in opposition to the original request was really the potential for usage well beyond what Middle School East and Mockingbird would ever need for the facilities. And back then, with the interlocal agreement was on the table. And the other issue was just to kind of mitigate the impact of the lights and the sound and things of that nature. So in the ensuing, I guess, last couple of months, we've worked with the school district, and the school district has been very gracious in meeting us well beyond halfway in most of our requests. And I want to acknowledge that, first off. They've abandoned their desire to have an interlocal agreement, and we've worked out, for the most part, pretty workable arrangements for the sound and the screening and lighting. Well, the interlocal agreement is now gone. The usage is still with CISD up until 9 o'clock every night of the week, except for Sunday. And at the P&Z meeting, when the district was asked by the P&Z board specifically, why do you need it till 9 o'clock at night? They really, other than the middle school needs, obviously, for the football games, they really couldn't, my recollection, they couldn't really come up with any particular needs that the district had for that facility. And they wanted to keep it open till 9 o'clock to maintain flexibility for the district, which I understand, and I understand the position because they spent a lot of money on the facility. That being said, the neighbors who live around the property think that may be a little unreasonable. The other thing that they mentioned was that because there are other middle school facilities at West and North, if the district ever needed a middle school athletic facility, East would be third on the list behind the other two. Unfortunately, that's not incorporated in the PD. That's just going to be something we're going to work out, I guess, with the district as we move forward. You know, all the neighbors, we want to accommodate Middle School East and Mockingbird and any needs they have for these facilities. That's not even a negotiating point. We're all on board on that same page. Our concern is use of the facility well beyond those needs, which will impact, you know, hundreds, if not thousands, of neighbors, traffic, sound, lights, et cetera, that will be coming into the neighborhood. What we're asking for at this point is a simple request, and that is that for non-middle school East and Mockingbird needs, that the facilities be closed at 7 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Obviously, home football games, things of that nature, will go beyond 7 o'clock for Middle School East, and Mockingbird is fine. But if there are no needs for the Middle School East and Mockingbird, 7 o'clock seems to be a reasonable time to close the facility. It's consistent with what I believe the city ordinance is for construction, and it's also consistent with what the car wash is for the vacuum cleaners, 7 o'clock. So that seems to be a pretty good time. That's really all I have to say at this point. But I also would like to mention to the council how phenomenal your staff is. We haven't really been through these zoning processes before, and we had fair to say, a multitude of questions for both Mike and Marcy along the way, and they were very accommodating, very professional in assisting us with how the process works. So I just wanted to let you know we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. The second person is Kathy Vanderpool.
Okay, my name is Kathy Vanderpool, and I am actually a 35-year resident of Coppell before there was a grocery store. In fact, we lived on the other side of the school on Creekside, and then we moved over to Falcon. My address is 817 Falcon. So I saw East be built. David spoke very well for our group. We really appreciate Marcy. I mean, immediately after I got the letter, I went and met with her, and she opened up her office, and she allowed us to talk to her. We're very appreciative of all the changes that the school board has made to accommodate us. But it is interesting listening to the concerns of the noise with the vacuums and just what David mentioned at 7 p.m. We're not opposed to anything that Coppell Middle School East would have over there. I live right across the street. People park in front of my house all the time. Those are not the concerns that I have. They have, PTO meetings. They have dances. Those are all fine. Football games, anything to accommodate the schools. When we bought that house on Falcon, we knew that a school was there. We didn't realize that they were going to eventually build a sports facility there and use it, 7 days a week. So we've been able to adjust that. My concerns, not to just repeat everything that David said, were the hours of usage. As I hear the other projects and the 7 p.m., that sounds wonderful to me. This is residential, all four sides. The school has outgrown the neighborhood. But there are people with kids that would like to get them to sleep, and there are noise concerns. Even though the speaker system is supposed to be at a certain level, there's the crowds and there's the people. And, we'd want them to cheer whichever way they want to. So my concerns are the hours of usage and who will actually be in charge of shutting down this facility at 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it is. I don't know, is it the school board? Is it the city? Who will actually be shutting it down, locking up the facilities, closing down the field, turning the lights off? Will there be somebody there, security, at night? If we have 300 people coming into the neighborhood, up to 300 people in the neighborhood, will there be security on site? Also, too, since I do live on Falcon, we're building this new parking lot between the schools to accommodate this field. I would love to have signage to have people park in that parking lot instead of using my house, the front of my house, to park their cars. So those are my concerns, is the signage, to add that, to where people are going into one entrance into this field instead of three different entrances, 3 different gates at this point. How, for security, again, I think that's important that people enter in one gate and leave in one gate. And I think that's it. So,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
The next person is Glenn Wade.
Wade, and I'm a 35-year resident of Coppell also, and I live at 918 Bitternut, and I've seen, Mockingbird being built and Middle School East. My 2 children both matriculated through both schools, and I've seen the growth and all the changes that have been going on. I agree that the 7 o'clock end time should be used because there's really nothing to do after that. My biggest concern is the traffic. I'm also currently the guardian for my 4-year-old grandson, and he will be going to Mockingbird. So his access to and from is a big concern. And traffic is going to be an issue. And I would like to have something say that during those hours of any kind of activity, that the roads be monitored and we can keep on track of what's going on so we don't have kids out playing, which they tend to do in the neighborhood, and we don't have a lot of cars going through our neighborhoods, and we like to make sure that everything is done to protect the children rather than just accommodate cars going to and from the facility. And that's my biggest concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is Vicki McBride. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Vicki McBride, and I live at 837 Falcon Lane. The city has identified 95 homeowners that will be directly impacted by the changes at East, and I am one of those homeowners. I am a 33-year resident of Coppell, and I have lived in my current home for 22 years. Of course, when you choose to live by a school, there will be pros and cons, and we were comfortable in our choice, and we raised 2 children in Coppell, and we definitely experienced advantages. The disadvantages that we deal with during the school year are traffic, noise, and trash blowing into our yards from the schoolyard and tennis courts. During school drop-off and pickup, it is difficult to impossible to access parking in front of our homes. In addition to cars in the pickup line, we have cars parking along Falcon Lane in order to avoid the pickup line to pick up their students. If we have a guest or service provider, they cannot park in front of our homes during these times. If there is an event at East, the situation on Falcon Lane is much worse. It is obvious that the project at East will negatively impact our quality of life and also the potential to reduce the value of our homes. The goal of CISD and the city should be to minimize this impact to the neighborhood while still providing improvements to the school. As you all are aware, this has been a hot topic, and the neighbors are appreciative of the compromises made by CISD, but there are still multiple issues remaining. First, I would ask that the council require signage on Mockingbird and Falcon directing visitors for all field activities to the appropriate parking lot that is between East and Mockingbird Elementary. And that parking lot is slated for expansion. I think that was explained earlier. I would hope that this signage will help to reduce the number of cars parking on residential streets and reduce the impact to the homeowners. Secondly, I would ask council to require field entrance to also be located between the two schools. I would also like to point out that CISD has stated that they need field improvements primarily for football practice and games. I don't see a need by CISD to be conducting events on the field outside of the school year and on Saturdays. My understanding is that the current request by CISD is to have field access from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. That leaves Sunday. The potential is that homeowners will have one morning, one afternoon, and one evening per week to enjoy their homes, backyards, pools, etc. Those of us that live adjacent to the field deserve to have peace and quiet more than one day a week. I would ask council to understand the negative impact to homeowners and establish time limits on a daily basis and also calendar year, in other words, sticking to the school year. One other thing is Lewis has said he can control the lights from his living room, and that is a generous offer. But I would assume that at some point Lewis is going to retire. So who is going to be in charge of controlling the lights after that? Or if Lewis is not sitting in his living room and is not aware that a game is over, how are the lights going to be controlled? Because if there is an activity going on at the school or on the field and it's over way before 9, shouldn't the lights be turned off at that time? It seems just totally wasteful for them to still be on. So who's going to control that? Who's going to be in charge of monitoring that and turning the lights off? Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Linda Bush. Welcome.
Thank you. I just have a couple things to add. Obviously, a lot of us feel the same thing.
Name and address.
Oh, Linda Bush, and I live at 825 Falcon. My biggest concern is while they're not doing the ILA now, the interlocal agreement with the city, that's awesome. But when asked the questions by the commissioners in the second P&Z, they asked very specific questions of, do we need to have this in there, whatever? Can there be wording so to not have that? And it's always not at this time. Everything's not at this time, but we need to kind of leave it open. My biggest, and have been advised, that if we don't get hours of usage in this right now with you guys, that they can do what they want to do. It may not be in agreement with the city, but who's to say it won't be with some other entity or some other person in the future? I'm not saying the people who are employed there now, but this is not for just right now. This is for the future. And I think it's bigger even than the 95 of us, that to preserve this neighborhood. We are not like North and West, and that's the initial what this was all about, was so that the East kids could have the same thing as West and North. And never has anybody been opposed to that. I even hate having to say that I'm opposed, because I'm not opposed to whatever East wants. I'm just opposed to CISD having this open-ended agreement that CISD doesn't even work on Saturdays. They don't even have any of their sports activities on Saturdays. Why on earth do they need it till 9 o'clock at night? On the first P&Z, when the city was still involved, it was because we didn't know what the city's usage was. Well, now it's not the city. Now it's they don't know what theirs is. So there's just so many vague answers, and being from a legal background office, also, you answer questions, I don't recall, I don't know at this time. And that just leaves things open, and that's what makes me the biggest concern. The other thing, I feel that I went to y'all's work session of the city council and the school board just because now I'm just like, gosh, do you need to go to everything to know what's going on? Because this was almost just like slid right by. And I just remember kind of talking about DART, and I think that's probably something everybody can sort of play into that a little bit more than just our little neighborhood. But I liken what we're asking for in our backyard is the stadium hours of usage to be reduced, and that's kind of like our quiet zone that you all are asking for the city of Coppell on those 8 streets, because you just want it quiet for the residencies, and you guys are kind of to protect us citizens from the noise, and that I know that's a big task that you all take. But to me, it's very similar to the DART thing, in that it's a community-wide thing, DART, but unless it's in your backyard and the whistles are blowing and you're appreciative that the horns aren't blowing, but to be honest, other people who aren't right by there, if they can't hear the horns, what does it really matter? But it means a lot to people that are living right by there. And so I just want to it's hard for everybody to put people in other people's shoes of what they're going for. And I'm in a position, I have 3 kids, I've lived here 28 years. I can move, though. I can move. My kids are out of the system. But a lot of people put a lot of money into their homes to retire, and it just breaks my heart for them. And there are just 95 of us. I'm not one that normally stands up and makes a fuss, or, I'm kind of like, whatever, go with the flow, go with the people who lead our city. But I just don't agree with it. I think that just because CIC is big, and just because they're asking for this, and just because they've given some concessions, that doesn't mean that the neighborhood has to change. There's no reason that they can give why they need this facility outside of the middle school east. I know that, other CISD things, maybe the high school, the ultimate frisbee teams, the soccer teams, whatever they're going to do, maybe they don't have practice fields. Well, you know what? If the city has grown too big for the school system, find another place to put a field. We have a lot of land. Go put it in the extra land we just got in Cypress Waters. I don't care where we put a field, but don't disrupt this whole neighborhood. We have tons of people living around here. I think the ones that border north are 4 houses. There's nobody that borders west. And, I just don't understand. So that's my biggest thing, is the concern of, okay, we're not doing no ILA. It makes CISD look great to be saying this. Everybody thinks, oh, well, it's over. No, they're not doing that. Well, nobody's saying, I know you guys can't say forever, because forever's, but I think that if it's ever talked about that they're going to partner with anybody outside of CISD, that there should be a whole nother thing like this going on, so that people can say, no, it's still not okay. So that's what I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Melba Downing. Welcome.
Thank you. They have said about everything I have on my sheet.
Name
and
and
I'm
address.
sorry, Melba Downing at 325 Spring Oak. I live on the 50-yard line, about 50 to 60 feet away, and so I'm right in the middle. And they have really said a lot of what I'm probably going to repeat, but I feel it's worth repeating. I want to first express my appreciation for the concessions made by CISD to minimize the impact of the east field improvements to the surrounding homeowners. However, and it's been said many times here lately, this is a different project. The homeowners and families still have concerns and requests that we feel still need to be considered this evening to further minimize that impact of the field improvements on our neighborhood. We are not west or north. The campus is surrounded by a long-time established neighborhood. I've been in my home since 1992 and in Coppell since 91. We are retired and we want to stay there, but it's going to change the quality of life of all of our neighbors. And I know we do appreciate everything that's been done and the concessions, but I think unless you're one of the homeowners, you don't realize the impact. And we support our children. I've worked for the school district, as many of you know, for 20 years, and I love children. This week I loved watching the Mockingbird PE students. My husband and I stood out there. They bring a lot of joy during the day when we're out there, and even the football practice. We enjoy that. My grandchildren like to watch it. But there's a problem with the hours. I'm sorry. I'm all for the games until 9 o'clock, Monday and Tuesday during the fall. But it's so open about the other hours and Saturday usage. I believe Vicki stated, we're going to have one day, Sunday, that we, can not have to get up and worry if we're going to have the field being used and the noise. And I know the PA system, they're keeping it at 50 decibels, but there's also crowd noise. And there's just a lot of things that people I don't think are thinking about. We would love if it would only be used by East and Mockingbird and not have Saturday usage and have maybe the days other than when they're having the games, have it until 7. And I don't think anyone's really addressed, I would assume that there would be no usage, but the school usage during the holidays and spring and summer breaks, I don't think that's been addressed really. We are very appreciative, especially those on the north and east side, of including the landscaping that the P&Z had requested. So we're very happy about that, and hopefully it will hide some of the view and soften the noise levels. But there are 95 families in these homes who, just like the football team, has their need to be using the field until 9 on the 2 nights. The 95 families in the surrounding homes have needs until 9 on the Wednesday through Saturday when there are not games. Like putting the little ones to bed. We already have one family, and he spoke at the first P&Z meeting. They moved here 3 years ago with 2 little ones, excited to be behind the school. They sold their home this weekend, so they're moving. I think the fact of what passed and what is probably going to be approved tonight had a great impact on that. He spoke against it, like I said at the first P&Z meeting. But, we want to enjoy our backyards and inside our homes after a long day without the interruptive noise that we will definitely hear if activities are allowed until 9. And again, we have no problem with the need for the team to have their home field for games until that time or for East and Mockingbird activities. We're very grateful. There's no ILA, and we hope that that's forever. I know that we said we should never say forever, but we are very pleased about that and thankful to you. And again, we appreciate the previous concessions made by CSD, but as many have stated here tonight, this campus is different and surrounded by families in very close proximity to the field. These additional requests presented this evening should have been included as well, and we kindly ask that you take them into consideration and approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are moving to Maureen Pransky. Oh, wait, one more. I'm sorry. Mark Montz, are you for or against?
Against.
You get to come first, sorry. Thank you.
I just didn't know which one.
He didn't say, yeah.
Hi, my name is Mark Muncy. I'm a 34-year resident of Coppell. I'm on my 4th house. I've got a 462 number below 1,000, so I've been here a while. For the last 13 years, I've lived at 135 Mesquitewood, which is about a quarter mile due north of the CISD property line. The only current noise I get from the school, I used to live next door. I thought I recognized him. The only noise I get is when I hear kids on the playground for recess, and that's only when the wind is strong enough out of the south where I actually hear them. since I retired about 18 months ago, I'm here all the time now. And so evening noise from football games and cheering and a 50 decibel PA, while nice mitigating strategies, I'm still going to hear them. But I'm more concerned with the immediate people around the periphery of the CISD property. I mean, we all know what NIMBYism is. And the funny thing about NIMBYism is that your opinion about something depends on how much you're affected. But there's one bottom line concept that I think gets overlooked a lot is what you're asking of the residents reasonable? Now, for example, if you don't like airport noise, you shouldn't move someplace near an airport. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, there's going to be aircraft noise, and it's not a reasonable expectation. The middle school site is the most landlocked middle school site of any of them here in Coppell, and I don't think the people that live in the periphery of the site had a reasonable expectation that the school district was going to try to shoehorn in a pretty good-sized project into such a small land footprint. I mean, the people in the immediate neighborhoods are the ones that are going to suffer the property value declines, the noise, the trash, and so many other negative factors that have been already enunciated here. There's also going to be additional traffic. If Mockingbird gets jammed up with people coming in for the game, I have no doubt that they're going to be coming down other streets like Hill, which feeds in the Red Cedar and then comes down Spring Oak. So those people are still going to get traffic. Of course, they'll have to turn on Falcon to get to the front of the school. So there's going to be overall effects no matter what the mitigation efforts have been. And so I would just urge you to give greater weight to the people in the immediate periphery. Like I say, it's not going to be any skin off my nose where I'm at, but the quality of life is important. I mean, when I moved out here in '84, ever since, Coppell has had a very restrained approach to growth. Instead of just throwing stuff up, we've resisted quick buck development, and we put a lot of thought into what we've done and we've built. And I think, like I say, trying to shoehorn in a footprint of this size in that small an area is just, I question whether it's even really necessary, given that there's ample stadium space at west and north. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Maureen, I'm sorry. Give you a second to take your deep breath and name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Maureen Pransky. I live at 761 Crane Circle. Before I start on my comments, I have a letter from Jason Spohr, who was unable to attend tonight, and he is a resident at 735 Hawk Lane. So I'm going to read that first, and then I've got a few comments of my own. My name is Jason Spohr. I live on 735 Hawk Lane, directly across the street from Middle School East, and our house is one of the homes being rezoned. My wife and I are 100% for the zoning change so that the addition of the stadium can move forward. We do not see any negative impact with the addition of the stadium, and our house is almost as close to where the proposed stadium and parking lot will be as are the homes that back up to the field. I urge you to approve this zoning request because it benefits the children of our community. The stadium gives the students at East equitable facilities that other CISD middle schools enjoy. As a community, we have the means to provide the facilities for the children, and I cannot accept telling the students at East that they cannot have what other students their age have because of the possibility of some occasional noise or light pollution. It is unacceptable that we adults make decisions that negatively affect children. The stadium will not only benefit the students in athletics by allowing them to actually practice under the lights instead of in the dark, but it will also benefit them academically. Currently, students who participate in football and soccer have to dismiss early for home games. Coaches have to miss class to get buses to take their teams to home games. With the addition of the stadium, student athletes could actually have a study hall at the end of a game day instead of traveling across town. Also, band and choir students would be able to perform at home games and at the home stadium, which they cannot do with the current setup. It is your responsibility to do the right things for the taxpayers, and it is our responsibility as taxpayers to make sure the right things are being done for the kids of our community. The right thing to do is to approve the zoning for the stadium. Thank you. That's from Jason Spohr. I had a few comments of my own, and they're kind of, I didn't have anything prepared. But I want to say that I am for the rezoning. My first concerns are the safety of our students. The lights are just a non-negotiable. It's dangerous and it's unfair to have the students of Middle School East practicing in the dark or having to wait until the sun comes out and we lose, some cases, 45 minutes versus some of our competition. The other middle schools, as has been stated, obviously the other middle schools are differently configured than East is. But the students who attend East are no different than the students who attend West and North. They deserve the same facilities and the same benefits. And they want to play at home. That gives you a home advantage. And everybody knows that, and that's what we want for our students. We want them to enjoy that benefit. Next, I applaud CISD for the concessions they have made. I think they've gone overboard. I think some are beyond necessary, but I do applaud them and I respect that, and I respect the homeowners for making their voices heard and working together with the school district. Sometimes it feels that there's nothing short of canceling the project that is going to make everybody happy, and I don't think anybody really wants that. I'm a 22-year resident of Coppell, 14 years at my current residence. Our original house backed up to Wilson Elementary School. I understand middle school elementary is different than the facility we're talking about, but there was no shrub line, there were no trees. My fence was the back of their playground. I had soccer balls being kicked against my fence all day long during recess. I was raising 3 little boys at the time, and we had constant noise and activity, and that goes along with it. We knew what we were getting into. The benefits outweighed the negatives for us. So I understand the noise and the traffic. But the bond passed. The voters of Coppell passed the CISD bond package, and the city and CISD have a responsibility to the taxpayers who passed that bond. As Councilmember Mays invoked at the beginning of the session, we honor those who keep their promises. He said that in the invocation. Please be people who keep your promises. Allow CISD to keep their promise to the taxpayers. 95 homeowners feel that they may be negatively impacted versus the thousands of students and their families who will benefit for years to come by having a home stadium at East. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ellen Orr.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Ellen Orr, and I live at 810 Mallard Drive. There are several reasons that I'm strongly for this rezoning change and field enhancements, and I'm so glad it looks like we are coming closer together, the pros and the cons. But to begin, East should have the equal facilities and equal schedules as the other middle schools in Coppell. When people are moving into a community, they take into serious consideration the schools, and East is not like the other schools. We have significantly less resources at East than the other two schools. If we don't complete the field additions and have equal times and equal opportunities, it could make it less desirable to move into our area. Our home values per square foot are already less than the other areas in town, and not building the facility completely could continue to devalue our property and make East less appealing to the people moving into the area. Secondly, for years it has been talked about that East would be getting lights, and we too would have the home field advantage, that we could compete effectively, that we would have increased safety, and that we would have practice schedules like the other middle schools. And I know this information because I have two that have already gone through Mockingbird, East, and the high school, and now I have one who is attending East currently. While Coppell Middle School North and West are practicing for football and possibly track, the East children are not, because it is pitch black outside. Therefore, East athletics have less practice time per day. You take 30 minutes per day, 40 minutes per day, multiply that out. That is a lot of minutes less.
Less practice times mean that we are automatically at a disadvantage to the other schools in and out of the district. The safety of our children is extremely important. When the players do go outside, the sun is barely rising. With no lights, the accidents can and do happen. Let's make East safer for all who use the track and field. I understand where they're saying limiting time, but very occasional things might come up where there might be an activity such as an additional game or a playoff or whatever it might be that could be on a different day of the week that could happen to need to go until 9 p.m. at night. So limiting lights all the time could cause some issues for East. I agree with what has been said. The bond did pass. Information was printed and public meetings were held that a field with lights and stands and more would be built and put up in our area. I have seen it in writing and talked to the people about the ILA, and I'm so glad that we've come to the agreement that it is not going to take place. But I do feel that East should have equal opportunity to see other schools. As someone mentioned, our kids are the same, and yes, it looks different. Unfortunately, I live very close to Beltline, and DART is coming. And when DART comes, I'm going to have much more noise, and that is something that I will have to deal with. Unfortunately, our school is getting way bigger probably than any of you anticipated. I know when I moved here 27 years ago, MacArthur didn't even go through. I had no idea that East would be that it is today. I had no idea that the overcrowding would happen because it's a totally different school, and it does. But I think we work very hard as a district to work in that area, accommodating everyone. I love how they are working together to come up with a solution, and I'm just asking that East gets fair representation as the other middle schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stephanie Waddle. Welcome.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Waddell. I currently live at 914 Elmville Court. I previously lived at 807 Pelican Drive, which was right by the Fawn Building. So my alley and the Fawn Building was right there. Like our driveways were right there. I am highly for the bond. One of the reasons was I feel for the people who talk about the noise and all that stuff. I've been there. The Fawn Building had lights. It had noise. I had twin boys that were 3 and 4 years old, that the rooms were upstairs, the lights were on at night, and all that good stuff, and the balls were going back and forth. But you know what? They got used to it. They didn't keep them up at night. And we're talking like 2 and 3 year olds, 2, 3, 4 year olds. It was not bothersome. The lights, guess what? You have blinds. You can shut the windows. So that was no worries for me. So I have 2 older children that have gone through CISD. I have 2 children now that are at East. I'm standing here because of my 2 youngest sons, Chase and Connor. I am for the bond package. It was voted and approved by the citizens of Coppell. I am for the upgrades for the middle school facility, and for the principal at Coppell Middle School East, Ms. Springer. She is truly amazing, and she does a great job for all the future leaders of Coppell at that school. It is so overly crowded, you have no idea. And for those in the community who, as a whole, that understand investing in our school, investing in our infrastructures, investing in our neighborhoods, and investing in our children is the only way to keep Coppell alive and well. Okay, I believe very strongly that a community, a school district, and even a city has its arrow pointing up, or it does not. Okay, to make sure that Coppell maintains its standing as one of the best communities and school districts in North Texas, continuous improvements will always be necessary. Your vote tonight is not only about giving the children of East the best facilities possible, facilities that they can be proud to call home, facilities that keep them safe during school-sponsored activities, but is even bigger than that. It is also about what type of community we are going to continue to be. Are we going to be one of those continuous improvements that invest in a vibrant, healthy future? Or are we going to continue to attract young families to our schools that keep the community growing? That is the type of community we can all be proud of. That is the type of community Coppell has always been. I do also agree with Maureen in regards to CISD has gone above and beyond trying to appease the people that are opposed to the lights and the bleachers and everything. And I think a lot of people don't like change. However, the school district, it's growing. And people are scared of change because it's the unknown. And when, I hate to say this, but when you live by a school, or if you build where there's nothing behind you, at some point, something is going to be built. It might be a week, it might be a month, it might be 5 years, it might be 20 years, but things will change. It will not always be the same forever. And you have to know that. And so I hope you guys vote yes. It was voted upon. The city voted yes for this bond, and hopefully you guys will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Terry Zettel.
Put up the photo with the neighborhood with all the people approved. There you go. Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Terry Zettel. I live at 845 Falcon Lane. And I guess my wife and I were the newcomers to the block because we've only been here 18 years at this home. You will see by this map, there's a blue line that goes right through the center of my home. So I guess if I'm in the kitchen, I'm impacted negatively. But if in the back, I don't have a voice in this tonight. So I just want to speak in favor of this zoning request. And the reason why is when we were relocating out of Irving some 18 years ago, we were looking for a community such as Coppell where we had easy access to a school and the amenities that the schools provided across the board. And so when we settled on this location, we knew we were going to get into something that, would be pluses and minuses. And some of my neighbors that we've known for so many years have described the negative parts of living next to a school, which are traffic problems during dismissal and arrival times and some of the activities that take place at school. But I also look at the positive that outweigh the negatives, and that is the close proximity of having my child walk K through 12, or at least K through 8 there, and then finish her schooling here in Coppell. I don't see this as a negative at all. I see this as just another amenity offered by the CISD. People spoke about bond packages. My background is 33 years in law enforcement, Irving, 3 years currently with Irving ISD. So I understand bond packages, but understand you don't have to approve what was approved by the voters. I mean, that's what we have zoning laws for. So I'm here to implore you to seriously consider this. I don't envy your decision tonight because obviously you have another negatively impacted neighbors of mine. But look at the positives of this thing. And I don't see it as a negative to my home value. I've been approached numerous times in the last several months to buy my home at above fair market value. And I think it's still a very booming economy here and for real estate in this city. And I think this would just be another amenity to actually bolster my home prices. So I look forward to your careful consideration and look forward to your approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Candy Sheehan.
Thank you, Ms. Springer. Good evening, Candy Sheehan. I live at 321 Quiet Valley. I'm here this evening to hopefully bring maybe a unique perspective of someone who's lived here many years, 35 years as well, and someone who's made a lot of decisions affecting this community. In 1983, my husband and I built our first home in Coppell, and we began running through the trees, which is now Coppell Middle School East and Mockingbird. So we've seen a lot of change in our neighborhood. And one of the reasons that drove us to Coppell is that we were told we were going to be a community with neighborhood schools. That's important. You know, there are communities that build their schools far off, or they bus kids, or they build portables. That wasn't going to happen in Coppell. We were going to have neighborhood schools. And that's a goal, that's a vision that appealed to us, and I think appealed to many, many people that moved to Coppell in the 80s and the 90s. I started serving the city in 1993 on the park board and the city council, and also started serving on bond committees for the school district in 1984. I was able to not only vote for change and influence change, I saw a lot of change in neighborhoods as well. And for the community, the change was usually very, very good. We built trails behind houses. We put lights in community parks. We lit tennis courts. Then we really built grocery stores. And we built Kroger. And we built Tom Thumb Shopping Center. And we built the YMCA. And every one of those projects had citizens protesting. We had so many at Kroger Shopping Center because it had been vacant land. We had protests at the Tom Thumb Shopping Center. But the YMCA was probably one of the largest protesters I've ever seen in this community. And look where we are today. We probably all shop at Kroger, we all go to Anna Mia's, and we all probably have been to the YMCA, and they've been major supporters of our community over the years. But how did we get to those developments? It was through public hearings, it was through small group meetings, and it was through compromise. And it is the compromise that have built this city into the wonderful place it is today. But since the 1990s, and that I know of, and I'm sure it started before then, the district and the city always worked together to benefit families and our youth. And when I served, we always thought of it as, you know, everyone pays taxes. You pay your school district taxes and you pay your city taxes. To most people, it doesn't matter which tax you pay. City or school, you're just paying your taxes. But for those of us who were decision makers, we wanted those tax dollars to be efficient and well used for our community and for our taxpayers. So the district and the city always worked well together those years, providing fields. And we did look at the middle schools as being part of the city fields that could be used for our youth sports. Because why build more fields when there are fields just standing closed that weren't even being used efficiently? So I applaud the school district and the city through all those years, and those were with interlocal agreements, and that's how you could have things appropriately scheduled and not have a lot of abuse of fields and people coming on the fields late at night. It was the interlocal agreement that provided some control over use of all of our fields. In closing, I just want to say that the city and the district have always had a shared vision and a shared goal that to provide our youth with the best opportunities that they can. And I think it's still probably good to say that we need our youth to be outdoors. They don't all need to be indoors and watching TV and on their games and things. But, you know, youth being outdoors is where we need to be and eat. I can't believe I spoke 5 minutes. But I support the East Field, and, you know, it is a neighborhood school. And I think someone just said, when you have a neighborhood school, there are changes at schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kaylee Schultz.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. I'm Kaylee Schultz, 150 Washington Court, and sorry, I have a cold, so my voice doesn't always sound like this. I'm a 17-year resident, and to go with what Candy said, there have been lots of compromises, lots of concessions from the district. I know they took into account what all the neighbors were asking for. I feel like the district has gone way above and beyond what needed to be done. The district wants to be great neighbors to the surrounding community, as does the administration and staff at East. So with that being said, I know they've also mentioned that property values might go down. I know there's a house that went up for sale on Spring Oak this week, and it was listing price per square foot was $197.56. Based on that, I would say property values definitely are not going down in Coppell. Yes, we do have lots of kids at East, and in the district, our district is growing exponentially, and the district is working very hard to find locations. There are 2 new schools being built currently, the New West and then a new elementary school, but people want to come to Coppell. People want to come to East, and tonight when I was getting ready to leave, my son said, "Where are you going this evening?" I said, "Well, I'm actually going to go to the city council meeting." And he said, "Oh, are they going to vote on the field? Are we actually going to get to play home football games now?" And being able to play at home is such a huge confidence builder and school pride. And that is something that you all want to have, pride in your school and pride in your teammates. And that also ties in with lights. Our poor kids have a son that graduated in May, who played football at East, and then my current 7th grader has played and is playing football at East. And, you know, they can't even go outside, or they're in the dark hoping to find football because they can't see it because it's so dark. And they have to wait for the sun to come up to actually be able to practice. So we have a fabulous staff at East, and so many of these kids, not only have they never played an organized sport, or not only have they not played football, they may have never played an organized sport. And we have such a fabulous staff that works with these kids. And when you take 30 minutes, 45 minutes away each day from trying to teach them plays, proper technique, how to tackle, how to hold the football, how to catch the football, that is a huge difference. And you've probably seen some of the kids in Southlake. There are some really big kids in Southlake. And when you take that 45 minutes away, as I think Stephanie was saying, and you multiply that out by all those days, that is a huge, huge disadvantage of our kiddos. So first and foremost, those lights are a complete safety issue. They have got to have those lights. And they just need to have that school pride to be able to dress in their locker room, to be able to stay in class till the end. They're called student athletes. So to be able to be a student athlete, you've got to be in school. And when you're having to get out of class early, or your teacher's having to leave to go pick up the bus barn, to come back and pick up your kids so you can have a home game at West or at North, you know, that takes a lot of time. It's also a lot of time on our coaches. Not only do they go and get that bus, but then they take the kids there and they bring all the kids back. Well, guess what? The intern coach has to go back to the bus barn to deliver that bus so they can use for a route the next day. Somebody had mentioned actually at the P&Z meeting that we were getting the Rose Bowl in our backyard. And first of all, it is not a stadium. It's for 300 seats. But I've been to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and it is in a residential neighborhood. There are lots of lights. It's much bigger than 300 seats that we're going to have at East, and it is in a residential neighborhood that people park in. At East, they were talking about parking on Falcon. I will tell you, drop off and pick up, that's when everybody comes to East. You're not going to have that many kids or many parents at a football game. Also, East is a neighborhood school. Guess what? You can walk to the football game. You can go and you can take your grandkids. You can take your kids. The kids who live 2 blocks over, they can walk. They can go and support their teammates or their friends at school. They can go and support them because the games start early, so parents might not be home from work yet. They can walk and go and support their team and their school and be proud to be an East Bronco. For years, like I said, I've lived here 17 years, and when I first moved, the joke was East is least. You've probably all heard it. Now East is the beast, but we want to keep East the beast by our kids having equal facilities, having the lights, having the facilities. It's not extravagant. but it is to keep them safe, it is to keep them competitive, and it is the best thing for our kids. So as you're deliberating tonight, I completely encourage you to think about what all these parents are saying about what is best for kids. That's the number one thing we want, what's best for kids. Thank you.
No, thank you. Craig Albee? Abel? It looks like an I on the end. Sorry.
Smart boards are really great now. My name's Craig Abel. I live in 1401 College Parkway, Louisville, Texas. So I know it's a little shocker. I'm the athletic coordinator currently at East. So I'm here tonight to talk for our kids because obviously 7th and 8th grade kids can't get up and speak at a city council meeting. That's a little nerve-wracking and scary for them. So I'm just here to talk for them. Before I talk for them, though, I do want to just talk about lights for a second. Some of those mentioned. At the high school where we currently play some of our home games, they had that automated light system as well. I know how to turn off those lights. I turn off those lights when we finish games. When we're at North and West, I turn off the lights myself as well. Every coach knows how to do that. So it's not just on Lewis in his living room to turn off the lights. We can do that as well. So I just want that aware because that is an issue. If we finish the game at 7 p.m., great. We'll turn off the lights at 7 p.m. Part of our checklist and what we do. Like I said, I'm speaking for them. Thank you for the opportunity to give me the opportunity to speak tonight. I want to start off by saying how great it is to work in a city where people take so much pride in where they live. It's truly great. Living in Louisville, my wife works for another school district. It's why I applied to be in Coppell. It's why I've stayed in Coppell. It's a beautiful community. It's an amazing city. I can't wait to have kids with my wife one day and hopefully still work in Coppell and send our kids here, because it is such a unique community. And I'm grateful that we have community citizens that are passionate about what they do. But I do want to talk about our kids. Right now, our student athletes do such a great job representing CISD both on and off the field. They work hard in everything they do. People have mentioned practice. I did the math. We currently lose 2,400 minutes during football season of practice time to the other schools. So 2,400 minutes, we have less practice time than them because of the lights issue. Also, if you've ever been around, I know to a lot of adults, having a home football field doesn't seem like much. It doesn't seem like a big deal. It doesn't seem like something that matters. But to a 12 and 13-year-old boy, having a home football field means everything. Having a place that says East Broncos, having a place they can call their home, a place that they know no matter what they do is a representation of them, is such a unique thing. Currently, we travel and we play home games where it says Coppell Cowboys, or it says West Wranglers, or it says North Cougars. We play North. We are the home team against North at North. So we play a home game against North at the North Cougar Field. And like I said, I know that seems like a small issue, but to a 13-year-old boy, it is everything to them. They hear it all the time. I hear other coaches say East is the least. These kids get made fun of because we don't have the same facilities that everybody else does. It's without a doubt, I see it every single day when we play those games. And it's not fair to those kids. They don't choose where they live. They don't choose where they go to school. Their parents live in East Zone, so they go to East. And they're being punished because where their parents live. They're being made fun of because where their parents live. I don't see how that's fair to those kids, and I don't see how that's right to those kids. And those kids, it means something. They want a place where their teachers, they don't have to drive to a home game. Their teachers can just walk down from the classroom to go watch those kids play. They want a chance to show off to those teachers, to their peers, to anybody else, all the hard work they put in. You know how hard it is for middle school kids to travel to away games to go watch their friends play? It's near impossible. If we're a home field, kids can come watch their friends play and watch the hard work they do. Teachers can be working in their classroom, walk down, watch a game. And what an amazing community experience we could build by that. And we want to build that community. As well as on top of that community, I have spoken with our current band directors and choir directors. Our choir would love to sing at the national anthem. Our band would love to play the national anthem. They love to play halftime shows. That's something we currently cannot do because you can't bus all those band kids on top of all the football kids, on top of the cheerleaders, on top of everybody else to those away sites. It's not a possibility right now. And so that's something we want to bring into the community. This isn't just about athletics. This is about our entire East school. It's about East pride. It's about doing what's best for our kids. Those kids that I care passionately about, those kids that I think are the greatest kids in the world. And those kids deserve every bit of everything they can get because they've done everything right and they've done everything we've ever asked of them. So I hope that you do what's best for these kids tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The last person on the list is Ms. Laura Springer. Welcome.
Thank you. Laura Springer, I live at 344 Lakewood Court. You have just put in vacuum cleaners across from me and a bakery. I'm happy tonight. I just want y'all to know that. So thank you for that. But I'm really here because I believe that I'm the face of East. That's what I do. That's what I'm about. I'm about our kids. I'm about what happens for our kids, and not just our kids, but these people that have been standing in front of you, people that are opposed and people for that have been parents of mine that's come through our school. I have feelings for every one of these people who are against this just as much as I do for the people who are for this. Because for me, these are people who have been a part of my life. I've had their children. I've loved their kids and wanted them to have the best life has to offer. I'm here asking you to agree to this because I feel our kids deserve this. I feel it's something that we need, as you've heard over and over again, for school pride, but more than that. We're put up with a lot, to be quite honest with you, and I have been very big of talking to our kids and talking to our people and our parents and everybody about quit complaining. Just be East and be the best you can be, and our time will come. It will come if you just shut up and do what you're supposed to do and take care of your business. When it's time, it'll be our time, our due. Well, it's our time, it's our due. We've waited our turn. We've watched West get this beautiful field and go out there and play on it. We've watched North get that and go out there and play on it. We've waited. It is finally our time. So we've got a beautiful field, but we're not supposed to have lights on it. We're not supposed to play on it. This is time for our kids to shine. It's time for our kids to be a part, and they shouldn't be punished because they live in a neighborhood. There's I can assure you in the United States of America, there are many schools that are built in a neighborhood where the kids come and watch, and I want our people to come watch. I want people to come out to see our games, as Craig was talking about. But I also want you to realize that it hasn't just affected our kids driving and having to go on a bus every game, and it hasn't just affected our coaches having to go a bus every single time and load our equipment no matter where we're playing those ball games, but it's also affected our parents. Our parents having to travel to go see our kids away from us every time we play. It also affects the fact that we are finally going to have a concession stand. My bakery is important because our concession stand is equally as important when we have home ball games. But our booster club, we have always had to give money to other people to run their concession stands, and they come to our games to run for us, and we're getting no money for our booster club that takes care of our banquet for our kids and the different things. So there are many ways that our parents are affected, our kids, everyone has been affected this. One of the big concerns has been traffic. Okay, I don't mean this rudely, but I wish we had that many people come out and watch a football game. We can hardly get half of a side of a stadium full. That's why 300-person stadium wasn't going to be a problem. We don't think we'll fill up a 300-person stadium. And to add that parking will help. I will tell you this, I don't know if there ever is a plan to be able to keep people from parking on Falcon. You talk about habits that have happened. We have signage all over, everywhere at East, and it tells you where you should go and where you shouldn't go. And I still have parents in the bus loop, and I have bus parents in the parent loop. So I just think that's part of living in a community with schools and traffic. The other piece of that is noise. You live by a middle school. Oh, my heavens, you should hear the noise every day. It's going to be part of that. But we want this field locked up at certain times. The problem is one of the things that we were asked to do was to leave this field open because for so many years, East has been open for people to use the track, for people to come out. Well, we've left the field open. But what that's actually done is allow people to be on that field even more than we would be on that field because there's nobody locking it up at night. So kids can be out on that field at all hours of the day and night. They can be out there on Saturdays. They can be out there on Sundays. So, there's things they want, but they don't want. And so I don't really know how to make that happen. But let me tell you about the usage we would do at East, mostly, unless there's some unusual circumstance. We play football one night a week. We have a home game and an away game. If our 7th grade's home, our 8th grade's away the next night. If our 8th grade's at home, our 7th grade's away. So it's one night a week for football in the fall. It's practice every morning. It's practice every afternoon. We have never, knock on wood, we haven't had any game I know of to go past 9 o'clock unless there was a lightning delay or something like that that was unforeseen circumstance that we could not control. And we have soccer that comes up. And we try to get those kids in and out of there as fast as possible because we really do not have very good soccer players right now. And so we want those games to be over with as fast as we possibly can get them over with, because these are kids who are really not soccer players. We just open up for everybody to play soccer. So you're not going to go hours of the night for our soccer, and that's going to, once again, be one night a week. So the usage that we're talking about is very minimal. Now, I will tell you, Laura Flynn and I from Mockingbird next door have talked about a Saturday fun run on the track sometime, which would happen one time over the course of the year between Mockingbird East for us to raise money for a charity. So please, I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, consider the fact that there are so many ways this will help our kids, our community, our parents, and what we're trying to do at East. And I thank you so very much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, Council, that is everyone that has signed up to speak. So I am going to turn it over for questions and comments. Jump in there, Councilmember Franklin.
I just have one question or request of the applicant. In one of the consistent things that we've been hearing, all night, just about every pro-con, whatever, talked about hours of operation. Could you enlighten us a little bit as to what your thinking was, what kind of compromises were made, what kind of compromises may be made? If you could enlighten us, that would be great.
Yeah, the 9 o'clock time was put in specifically for the football games because, again, we play one night a week, as Mrs. Springer mentioned, and typically those games are over 8:15, 8:30, on a typical normal night, unless, as she mentioned, there's some unforeseen circumstances. So that is where the 9 o'clock time came in. Pretty much any other activity that would happen on that field would not go to those times. If it was an elementary school, I mean, the most use that we're going to have as a school district is going to be during the day, is when, which is pretty much the case now. When you have the elementary kids out there running the track, or you have the middle schoolers out there, in their PE classes and things of that nature. So to answer your question, Marvin, that is where the 9 o'clock time came in.
So does that mean, but the 9 o'clock time, as I understand it, is every night, right? Or is it just football nights?
No, it's every night.
It's every night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. I have questions on the lights. We talked about in the morning, trying to understand when could the lights go on in the morning, because obviously there's a safety issue with these kids practicing so early they can't see the ball. They can't, any kind of divots in the field, potential for broken bones and stuff like that. So what is set now for times that has been agreed upon for the lights?
Well, that would be specifically for football.
Okay.
They have the morning practices that start at 6:30.
Okay.
The good thing about the automated lighting system that we're proposing to put in gives us the flexibility to, it isn't all or none. We can turn on 2 poles on the east side that would be adequate light for practice.
Okay.
But to answer your question, that is the need for the lights would be for the morning practices.
But you would only just put on half of the lights.
The ones on the east side
for the morning practice.
For the morning practices,
okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Hinojosa Flores.
I'm going to stick to the lights, and then I'll come back to other questions here in a minute since
Okay.
we're on that roll. But so help me understand. I think for clarification, following up on Councilmember Franklin's question, so he was asking like 9 o'clock every night. Are you saying the lights are going to be on every night till 9 o'clock? No, only if there's something going on.
If there is something going on, yes.
Right, and
yes.
they could be turned off if you have something going on. They could be turned off prior to 9,
Absolutely.
so you're not
And-
going to leave them on till the.
Absolutely. And the comment I made about being able to do those from my living room was basically just to explain the ease of controlling these lights. Anybody can turn these on. It's an automated system. There's apps that you download on your phone. So I could be at Anamia's and somebody make a call and say, hey, the lights are on at East, there's nobody out there, and we could control those lights. But all that responsibility is given to the coaches and the staff members that are using the complex to do those shutdowns.
Okay. And another question is, so another concern that was brought up was usage of the field for non middle school East or non Mockingbird activities.
Mm-hmm.
What do we foresee like then that happening? Like what would be something that's a non middle school East, non Mockingbird
Well,
activity?
the only non-ISD use would have been with the interlocal agreement with the city
Right,
of
but that's
Coppell,
not
and
happening.
that's off the table now. So it would be strictly for CISD use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then to clarify that, Ms. Springer mentioned we're looking at like one game a week during the school year, I presume, and maybe even a fun run. That sounds fun.
Things like that.
And then what would Mockingbird use it for, if
I don't
anything?
know that Mockingbird would have a use after hours, other than the fun run in conjunction with the middle school. But, again, it being a CIC facility, if they were to come up with a request, and we would obviously would look into that. But, again, you're talking about a lot younger student at an elementary school.
Right.
So for them to schedule something that's going to go till 9 o'clock is highly unlikely.
Sorry, I'm going to go on, but one more thing. What else do Coppell Middle School North, Denton Creek Middle School West, other uses other than mostly football? What else do they use their facility for?
The interlocal agreement with the city of Coppell.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
so they have that where
Right.
we wouldn't have it here.
Right.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're asking questions about lights, safety.
Yes.
Especially with these children, half the lights on. If you only need half the lights to practice, why do you need more than half the lights to play a game?
Well, you've got the foot candles that are required for a football game, but to make a concession for the neighborhood, we agreed that with half the lights on would be adequate light, given the concession, to allow them to practice at 6:30 in the morning in a safe manner. So you wouldn't have playing, light levels,
Okay.
but you would have enough light on the field to be able to safely conduct a practice for the 30, 45 minutes in the morning that it's dark before it gets daylight.
Okay, Marcy, can you tell me, and I'm guessing the lights here are already within the ordinance of downlights and making sure there's limited, what's that called, pollution? Light pollution?
Light levels. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's existing lights basically on the Mockingbird site that's lighting the parking lot there, and right at the property line, it does meet our requirements of 0.25 foot candles at the property line. So it would be similar to that along this alley.
With all the lights on?
Right, and I'll let Louis explain the newfangled
Yeah.
lighting that's supposed to be a lot more angled
Yeah.
and
Typically, with the middle school field type lighting, you typically see a 35 to 40 foot pole. But what you see when you do that, you tend to have to, if you look at, you tend to have to cantilever your lights up a little bit to get the spread. So in requesting the 70 foot poles, it allows us to aim those fields directly down at the field. We're not lighting the track, so basically we're going to be able to light the postage stamp of the field at the light levels, and anything outside that and up to the property line will fall well within the lighting ordinances.
And that plus the additional foliage that you're contemplating would also reduce the light that would actually make it to the houses.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that we will not have any light spillage outside of the postage stamp of the football field, because you figure, and I'll give you a good example, the football field light levels will be 50. At the property line, we're going to be 0.20. So if that gives you an indication of, if you can look at some of these pictures, and we actually have a better picture, but if you look right outside that sideline, and these aren't, you can see significantly how the light levels drop off. So you add 100 and something feet from the edge of that field to the center of the alley, and basically it's going to probably be just as dark as it is now.
And you did that primarily, originally, because there were houses there.
Well, we did that, obviously to be good neighbors and
Yes.
to fall within the lighting ordinances of the city of Coppell.
Because I always thought that, even when we have people that are backing up to businesses that are backing up, they have to have the downward facing light so that it does not affect the people
Exactly.
around them. So
Right.
this really is no different.
Is no different. And then it's all LED lighting technology now, so it's not your older type HID lighting that was more of a spread type lighting. This is more directional lighting, so we're able to direct the light specifically where we need it to be.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? It's,
Thank you. Councilmember Hinojosa Flores.
Thank you.
A comment by the athletic director about the number of minutes of practice. And so I don't know if that's for you or you, but it was mentioned that there's like 2,400 minutes of practice. Is that how many minutes they're missing out on? Okay. That's how much they're missing out on because of the lack of the lighting. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Member Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. One of the things I'm struggling with is the regulatory requirements that we're going to place on the school district to enforce compliance. One of the things that caught me was the requirement to lock the restrooms. I mean, very reasonable request,
right? But
it's not going to be ours to enforce. How are you going to do things to limit access to those facilities?
Yeah, well, keep in mind that the restroom facilities will not be open, on a 24-hour basis. They're basically there, and the intended use of those facilities are for when we are having events at the field. So morning practices, they're not going to be opening the restrooms for the football players after practicing. So basically, when we're having football games, things like that, that's when the restrooms will be open and the concession stand will be active. Once the game is over, it's a responsibility of the coach or whoever is using the facility to secure all those facilities and make sure that the doors are locked and the restrooms are open. You can imagine if we left those restrooms open all the time, what we would be up against, weekend use, vandalism, things like that. So they're not, to answer your question, they're not being put out there for daily use or for, use at all times. So.
One of the things that I'm struggling with, and it may be that others are as well, is that a lot of these things, that conditions that you all agreed to, are operational decisions. And while we are thankful that you have been working with the neighborhood and you want to be a good neighbor, I don't know if it says right here no other activities except for CISD activities. And then someplace else it says public can use it. Kind of a problem, because if on a Sunday morning there's a group of people out there and it's not a CISD group of people, right. Beside the fact that it's on Sunday, but we're just neighbors, we're just the public, that's a problem. So that I'm having some problems with being able to say, you as the ISD, going back to the lights, are responsible for the safety of those children. And if you deem that only half of the lights are okay today, and you're not actually doing that, and then halfway through the season you're going, you know what, this just isn't working. We need both. Then you need to come back here to get both of them on. Yeah. And that limits your ability to do the proper operational thing to do what's right for the children.
Well,
I have a problem with us dictating that.
All right. But I will say this, Mayor Hunt, we have no less than 4 fields, lit fields in this, in the city of Coppell, and we're just installing one over at Cypress Waters at the new middle school. So we have a lot of experience with what lighting on football fields are able to do. There's been times when we have been replacing the turf over at Coppell High School, for instance, and we needed the lights for night work. We know what two poles are capable of doing. And we wouldn't have agreed to that concession if we thought that two lights were not, that we're not going to be safe for the kids to play on. At that point, our argument would have been different. It would have been, we absolutely have to have all 4 light poles, but we are convinced and we know for a fact that two poles are going to be adequate for what we're doing in the morning at the middle school level for practice.
Forever and always.
Absolutely.
All right, or when you come back and ask us to do something different.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Roden.
Yeah, just to confirm, and I appreciate this process. I think this is the way the city should work. There are concerns that neighbors had that have been to some degree addressed. There are concerns the school has had that have been some degree addressed. Maybe that's a sign of a good compromise that nobody's 100% happy. My biggest concern was somewhat what the mayor was talking about is just operationally. I'm concerned about the city getting pulled into these lights went off at 9:05. They were supposed to be off at 9. That's not what we do well as a city. That's y'all's operation. So help me understand. I think what I've heard is your faculty, your coaches, they will lock the restrooms if the game's halfway through the fourth quarter, they're going to figure out what they do at 9 o'clock. That your personnel take care of that. Is that correct?
Right. And let me explain how these lights work. Old technology required the human element to go over and stick a key into a switch and turn a switch off or activate. You don't have to do that anymore. Now everything is automated. It's all scheduled through a program. So if we go in there and we schedule these lights to go off at 9 o'clock, they are automatically going to shut off at 9 o'clock. If we make a phone call to Musco Lighting and say, hey, we are done with our field and it's 7:15, they have the ability from North Carolina, where they're stationed, to hit a button and absolutely turn those lights off. The city currently is using some of that technology at some of the parks and some of the new facilities that have just been put in. We're in the process now of working with the city on the fields that we do have the interlocal agreement with to enhance these to have the Musco lighting control system. So, it's basically evolved to something now to where it's almost foolproof. It almost takes out that, that chance of lights being left on past 9 o'clock. We have the ability to go to Musco and say, absolutely nobody other than somebody that has administrative rights to this system can request these lights that stay on past 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, regardless of what the situation is, these lights are to go off. So there will never be an issue with, you drive by at 11 o'clock at night and those lights are on and we're thinking, oh my God, what happened? Why didn't somebody turn those off? So we feel really comfortable about this technology that's in place.
Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. My concerns are somewhat, obviously, as yours are, and that's the operational activities. I just don't see us getting involved in making those kind of decisions or policing those kind of decisions. You as a staff of the district, are well equipped to do that. If the citizens in our city don't like what you're doing, there's an elective body that sort of provides the policy for the school district, and that's not us. And so there is someone out there that's accountable to these folks beyond you as staff members if they don't like the policies and the procedures that are being applied by the city. By the school district. So consequently, I look at this as something that really is critically important, and I think the solution to the situation is we can handle the shrubbery and the building codes and requirements. Yes, that's in the city of Coppell. We have that responsibility. I don't think that we have the responsibility for the policies and procedures of how you run your athletic facilities. And so I think that the citizens need to look to the elected officials that set the policy for the school district if they don't like the policies that are being put forth. And I think it's a policy thing that exists. I just don't think we as a council should cross that line. So I just feel like that's I wanted to get that on the record, that's sort of how I feel about the approach that we're taking here.
Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Councilman Long. It's important to realize that the school district is on the same footing as the city. They're a taxing body. State Supreme Court law related to this issue is clear that independent school districts are required to comply with life safety codes and regulations that are applied by local jurisdictions. However, zoning regulations and development standards do not apply to ISDs according to precedents determined in courts of law. It's not the role of this council to make a determination of this nature. In this case, shouldn't even be before us tonight, in my opinion. The district has made very good compromises and concessions to the people who were opposed to these improvements, and they should be applauded. And a lot of this discourse, I think, should be taking place over at your building with your board members, and we shouldn't have to be involved with this. That being said, when you talked about the policies and who's going to police all that, that can't be the role of the city. Thank you.
Councilmember Mays.
So, when we take a look at what's before us, one of the early discussions was, we don't need the football field there. Well, the use of the field is currently a football field, so, it is a reasonable request. It's been used that way for many years. We do have ordinances that are available to us to limit nuisance, such as sound and lighting, and I'm convinced that we're going to be or you will be in compliance with that. I actually heard you on the video say that you would cease operation if you weren't. So yeah. Those are things that we can control. But I'm tending to, you're going to hear we're very unsure on this operational characteristic on how we regulate that. And I think that's where our we agree and we applaud the efforts of the school district, and we think that you guys have come up with a very reasonable compromise, or at least I do. But it's not clear to me how we are in place to enforce that. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. And I too agree that it would be very difficult to us to enforce a lot of these things. On the other hand, I really respect the public discourse that's taken place here. And you all have really stepped up to the plate with some compromise, and I've got to respect that. Maybe we don't need to be here, but we are, and I'm very supportive of what you're doing and how far you've had to come. So if that includes certain operational things, so be it. If you're comfortable with the way you operate the schools and use it, then I'm comfortable. That's where I feel.
Mayor Pro Tem Yingling.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been doing this for about 4 years, and we've had the park system. There's always that fear of the unknown. I had people come up to me. We went through this same process, and a lot of the people that were concerned and against it are now thankful for it. So there's a fear of the unknown. One of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is that it's almost a time where sometimes it puts neighborhoods against neighborhoods, which can be difficult. So I don't think that we should really be in a position that the city is enforcing those things. And I haven't seen as many compromises by anybody as I've seen in the last 4 years as I've seen the school district. So I really feel that you're going to do the right thing. So thank you.
Councilmember Hinojosa Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, like Councilmember Franklin mentioned, I also appreciate he called it the public discourse, but it's part of our system, right? Everybody has different views, and I think that's important. And to know that you're heard. We have read every single email. I know I have, and I'm sure that all my fellow council members and mayor have too. But we've read every single email. People stop us at Kroger's to talk to us. There's pros and cons to everything. I completely understand. I'm probably the only council member up here that still has kids in the school district. I have a middle school student and I have an elementary school student. I get it. My student does not go to East, even though I would like him to. But and we lived in the East School District. We lived on Timber Ridge for a while, and so I drove those streets. I know the concerns of traffic. Please know they exist everywhere. They exist at every school that we go to. They're neighborhood schools. One of the things that I love about our community is that people move here predominantly for our schools. It's what brings us together, and it's what helps build that family for a lifetime. It's that community. We happen to go to a middle school that does have a field, and while my son, as a 7th grader, does not play football right now, he loves going to games, and he listens to his friends, and he loves that home field advantage. And I think that that's important. I was one of those parents that made those trips to different schools as part of the iLead program because I wanted to visit other schools. I went also as part of the bond package or the bond committee to go and look at schools. I had the opportunity to visit East and was surprised at the fact that they didn't have as much as the other schools and would not have gone had I not been part of this bond committee, because other than going to see Ms. Springer or people that I may know or teachers, or to go and be a speaker because of what I do in my day job, I wouldn't have gone to the school otherwise. And so I really, again, I think I hear everybody. I understand where everyone's coming from. Someone mentioned, how we've been talking about the vacuum cleaner. So, and the noise on the vacuums, and I will clarify that. The vacuum cleaners is a business, and it's an everyday business. That noise will be every single day, which is why I brought that up. I was someone who, when Einstein wanted to have their speaker system outside, I was concerned because people work from home, and it's all day long, every single day. This is not every day. They're games that are on occasion. They're during the school year. And I do trust, like our council members, I do trust that our staff in the school district and our elected officials on the school board will do what's right and will follow what they need to. That's not our job to police. We have certain codes. We need to make sure that you're within the lighting parameters or the noise parameters because that's within our purview. But the rest of it is really up to, the school and the staff. And I truly believe, having seen the compromise that has existed during this process, that if something is not followed, you will hear about it. And I presume that you will fix it because we care about our citizens and we care about our students. I am above and beyond my concern is the safety of the students. We believe in health and wellness. I believe in our students making sure they get their activity. I'm saddened to hear they don't get that every single day. I think that's important. It's important for your physical health and your mental health. And I think our students, whether they are at East, whether they are at North, whether they are at West, and regardless of where they are located in our community, need to have the same opportunities. And so, again, I appreciate everybody that spoke tonight. I'm in favor of this, and that's kind of where I'm at tonight.
Does anybody else have a comment? I'm thinking the best way we need to do this is go item by item and say operational or otherwise I think we won't be able to be clear. Yes, sir.
Mayor.
How are you doing,
Let
sir?
me
Are you going to
suggest
guide
that-
us?
Yes. I think that I would ask that you would, based on your discussion, make a motion to approve the plan development with the attached site plan, with the exclusion of the site restrictions noted on the site plan. And I'm going to read those to you.
Okay.
They are, I'm going to try to because they're real small. There shall be no Sunday activities or CISD use. That's one of the straight
That's
restrictions.
deletions?
Yes, these
Okay.
are things I think you want to delete. So
Okay.
when I make the motion or suggest to you the motion to approve of the plan development with the site plan, excluding the site requirements, then we'll take out all the things that I'm about to tell you. One of
Okay.
which, no Sunday use or CISD use. 2, the community shall be allowed to use the track, operational. We'll leave it with them. 3, use of the facility should be limited to CISD, operational.
Bob, if it helps, I've kind of lettered them all up on the screen, so
Okay.
if that kind of
I'm
helps you.
trying, just so we don't say A, B, C, because I don't know that anyone's keeping track.
What do you think about that, guys? It's operational?
Now, one of the things we discussed
I don't think that's operational.
is because you change the character of the usage if you allow everybody, that would allow them the opportunity to sign an agreement with soccer, with someone from another city to
Okay,
use
how
this
would
facility.
we enforce that?
It's just CISD use only. It's a condition of the PD.
So it would be by reporting only. We'd have to.
Yes, we're not going to go out there and check. If someone called and said, I would assume it'd be one of these good folks over here that if they're leasing the space on Sunday night for football for some traveling team, they're going to be calling the city, and then it's a violation of the PD regulation, which has a consequence. It's a zoning violation.
That one probably needs to stay then.
Okay.
Is that true? I concur. You concur? I concur. Okay. I didn't want to make that decision for y'all.
No lights permitted after 9. That's an operational issue, I think, that you've defined.
Well, that's also a lighting issue that we can.
We have placed those restrictions on other businesses in order to accommodate the neighbors.
That one can stay.
Okay. The sound system, 50 decibels, but there was a limitation at 8 a.m. You just want to go with the city's standard at the property line, correct?
Yes.
And the same with the lighting,
Yes.
correct? That's based on your comments. It would have, I didn't put any time to it. I just said what was in here. No sound system before 8 a.m., no sound system after, looks like 9 p.m.
Yeah, the lights will be off, so.
Okay.
That's true, because they said they did.
Yeah.
And then the idea of security of the restrooms. That to me is an operational issue.
That's operational.
I think I heard you say. Is there anything, I know there's staff conditions that are normal conditions like engineering. So the motion would be to approve the plan development based on the site plan with the exclusion of the site restrictions on the site plan, except for as to use for CISD purposes only, and no lights earlier than 6:30 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m.
Is that correct, Louis? Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
and with the staff standard conditions.
Staff standard conditions.
Is that right, Marcy?
Okay, those are the staff standard conditions, which are just, and then they will come in with a landscape plan, looking
Yes.
at that, because we can definitely control landscape, and so.
That would include the landscaping, the placement of the facility, the placement of the lights, the placement of the concession stand, and all of the decorative metal fencing, landscaping, and all of the elements of the sidewalk and the internal, as well as the parking lot.
Okay. For everyone here, basically, a lot of the things that CISD agreed to were moved from the list of exceptions to the plat. That they actually redid the plat and put these conditions in the plat. So now,
We've got to take them out.
what we just did is talk about what needed to come off the plat. So if you could read what is going to be on the plat, and then it will be that plus the additional conditions.
Correct. We are taking off out of the site. We're taking all the site restrictions except lights from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and CISD use only, and everything else is off under the site restrictions. Would be number B. You're going to leave the profile because that's part of the site plan. So A stays, B goes, C stays, D goes, E stays, so you're going to move the parking, F goes because that's an operational issue, and then G goes because that's an operational issue. H stays, I goes, the use of the sound system should not be permitted prior to 8 or after 9, that stays. And then submission of the landscape plan and screening and overstory, that stays.
Okay, one question. What about, excuse me, I guess I got too close to her. Go back to the noise. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Because we had talked about how noise is something that we have regulated in the past.
Yes.
So that one needs to stay. And
Okay, so you want no sound system before 8 a.m., no later than 9.
D needs to stay. You had said it goes.
Okay.
That's not right.
Because we have decibel level, we have noise pollution ordinance, so I misunderstood. So you want to keep that one, that's fine.
So is that equating to our noise?
I think actually we have a decibel level in our noise ordinance. We do have we have the lighting, the foot candles, but not the decibel per se.
Well, it's an unreasonable and prudent noise under the conditions then existing based on the time.
The dawn to dusk
noise.
thing.
Okay.
Based on what was explained to me would be not violative of your ordinance.
Describe to me what 90 decibels is.
I just happen to have
50.
that.
50.
So
50 decibels is
get our engineer.
approximately.
is normal conversation in a room.
Or just a
I
rain.
anticipated that question. So 50
Hard rain, yeah.
is kind of a normal conversation, as he said, whereas like a vacuum or something comes up to 60 and a quiet library is 40. So it's what you would expect as a neighbor, pretty much.
Or just a light rainstorm. I mean, just rain coming down with it, not necessarily any thunder or lightning.
No
lightning,
tin
just
roof.
rain.
Yeah.
Not a big downpour, but just a steady rain. It's 50 decibels.
Go ahead.
To me, the key is this is something we normally regulate. We're setting a limit, whereas normally we regulate it to a reasonable level.
Yes,
and
sir.
so I don't have a problem with us regulating this, but we're just being a little more restrictive than we normally are, but it's something that we do normally.
Yes. And have in the past. Yes, sir.
And And we have a way to, I know they agreed to it, but do we have a way to measure it?
Meter.
We
We
can-
have
we
noise
can-
meters. I don't know if the building official has, but you can take a noise meter and measure sound at the property line.
We can do that. Okay.
And it's going to be a complaint base. I don't think Marcy or I are going to go out there with a sound meter and on the night of the football game. It's going to be based on prolonged activity over
And
an
it's
extended
the
period.
speakers only, not the cheer, the people cheering, right?
Right. It's the sound system.
Not the band, not the, okay.
They can yell as long and as hard as they want. Yes, ma'am.
So the key thing here is that nobody, except for those sitting right by it, will hear it. So if your kid did something awesome, you didn't hear it. Sorry. I think that's a little excessive personally, but I'm just one.
The key is it's at the property line, not within the stadium. Hopefully it's louder than that in the stadium, or we shouldn't waste our money buying it.
Okay. Okay.
It will be much louder. Set the limit away, and it is a reasonable number.
Okay. These guys are experts about sound, so I'm okay. Or at least they have a whole lot more understanding. They don't like to be called experts. The mayor said it doesn't give you anything. Okay. So are we at a place where everybody is comfortable?
Make a comment. I think what we're doing here is not taking exception with the compromises that have been made. And the reality is we expect the district and the school to honor those compromises, but we're trying to limit the city's role to what the city should normally be doing, but understand that the city, the district, and the trustees have made this commitment. I think is what we're trying to say.
And what it also does is it should set up that if you all are unhappy, if you think that the school district is not operating this property the way that they agreed to, that when you said who's responsible, they are. Because they are the ones that use the property, and they are the ones that take care of the kids and make sure that the things that are being done at that location are for CISD. And so hopefully this is a good compromise, because now you have us on these items and you have the school district on everything else that they agreed to operationally. Because and I think many of you have heard me say this, we have such a great relationship with the schools and the school district, the trustees, the staff. And for us to get in their business, it just doesn't bode well. And we are very lucky because we are in a place that there is a good, healthy relationship between the schools and the city. You don't have to go far to know that isn't everywhere. So I think everybody compromised on this. I think the school district compromised more than I ever would. But you know what? They're happy. They think they can serve the children, and hopefully the citizens will be surrounding it will be happy as well. Okay. So you want to read it into the record for us, and then we'll ask for a motion?
Motion would be to approve the Plan Development District as listed in the agenda, and to, based on the site plan, the staff comments, and the following provisions of this exhibit which is being displayed. A, C, D, E. Next. H, J, K, and L.
Okay. Have a motion.
I move to close the public hearing and to so move the reading in the conditions that our attorney, Bob Hager, has read into the record.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Franklin. Any other discussion? And everybody's going, no, no, no. Okay. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa, Flores, Mays, Roden, Yingling, Franklin, Hill. None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here and sharing your opinions and helping us through this. And there's more meeting if you would like to stay. Understand why everybody leaves when their deal is done. Okay, so item 12 is city manager's report. Now we know why they're leaving.
I that's all the time. Mayor and Council, the only thing that I'd like to report is that Town Center Boulevard should be completed by the end of next week. And Mayor, that means you'll be able to go to and from. That's right, all the way. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, item 13, Mayor and Council reports. We are currently in second place for the It's Time Texas. Please, everybody that's walking out the door, you make sure that you signed up for the It's Time Texas Community Challenge. All right, get people in your neighborhood to sign up to you. We're gone. The challenge continues through March 4th. Let's show how Coppell's commitment to healthy living by getting our friends and neighbors out. www.ittcommunitychallenge.com. If you haven't noticed, primary elections for the fall elections, the Republican and the Democratic primary, are on March 6th. Early voting will be here at Town Center February 20th through March 2nd, and we will also have the Election Day polling here. Registered voters may vote anywhere in the county during early voting. You can check the City Secretary's election page for more information on where and when to vote. Any public service announcements? Councilmember Mace.
I promise to keep this very, very short. You're welcome. The Coppell Community Orchestra will have its third concert free to the public on Friday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Coppell Senior and Recreation Center. The public is welcome. Thank you.
Any other public service announcements? No necessary action from executive session, and it is 10:21. We are adjourned.